In light of our current culture that tends to cancel people, I can't help but continue to think of, thinking of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11 through 12, and it talks about, that we should aspire to work quietly and diligently with our own hands. But then it goes further and says, so that you would be dependent on no one.
Right.
And man, I don't know about you, but the last 18 months, I've been painfully aware of how dependent I am on so many different, commodities, economically dependent on this, for conveniences dependent on that. And I've just thought I am not the cancel-proof, resilient, conservative Christian that I thought I was. I mean, by God's grace, I pastor a local church that's conservative, and I do this ministry with Right Response Ministry. So I don't feel like I'm compromising or cowering out of fear of. But I know a lot of men right now are really struggling with that. Do I compromise my values, my virtues in order to save my livelihood? And so I feel like what you're doing is incredibly relevant. So would you just, speak to that, for the guys who are trying to reject the woke culture, the cancel culture, even with the cancel, well, let me ask it like this. I'm not a libertarian, so I believe in cancel culture. I just think that conservatives should cancel wickedness. So what are some of your thoughts on cancel culture? Let me start there.
Oh man, let's see. There's a bunch of jumping off points that I could go down.
I know. I'm sorry.
Down. I think cancel culture is it's kind of like the latest iteration, the latest handwriting on the wall to say I probably need to become a little bit more self-reliant and get myself untethered from this system, this matrix that I'm completely a part of and unable to live without. You talked about kind of recognizing some of these things over the last 18 months. My background is as a computer programmer. I've spent the last 20 years in high technology. I've started my own software company. I've been, very much immersed in that whole world for most of my life. Computer science degree in college and all of that. And so there was a point at time about 10 or 11 years ago where I was actually watching some documentary about kind of like apocalyptic prepper kind of information and like that. And it just struck me one time, do I have anything useful I could contribute to society if the lights went out?
Right.
And the answer was a definitive no. I don't know how to build things. I don't know how to grow things. I don't know how to subsist without this incredibly high level of infrastructure beneath me. And so this kind of started just a curiosity of that ended up resulting in me moving my family out to a rural property. I continued on. I didn't plan to leave the technology side of things, but as I got more involved in like farming and shepherding and working with the land and working with my family while we were working the land, it really started to open my eyes to like, okay, there are some very practical ways that we can reclaim some of these home-based functions and these home economics functions that we've really parceled out to corporations and governments and different things over the years. But there are many things that are available to us, available to men if they want to lead their families in this way. And eventually that kind of culminated into me looking into actual vocations or trades, which is what I document in my book. And so the premise for the book is this exact thing. What can families do together in this day and age and build something that will last, not something that's going to be cancelable like you described, which is like the modern iteration of where we're at, but also that would have some measure of insulation against just supply chain issues and technology innovation and disruption. My whole field of technology is one of constant change. Everything is going obsolete all the time. So you've got to reinvent yourself continuously. Nobody used to live that way. We would have family businesses that would pass on from the father to the son to the grandson, and they would go for generation after generation. They'd get better and better. And so this is a modern reality that we live in, and it's really a false reality. We were not designed to change careers every couple of years for their entire lives. We were designed to get really skilled into a few select areas and then to be broad generalists in a lot of areas so that you could build your own shelter. You could grow your own food. You would live in communities of people who did that same thing. So anyway, this kind of coming back to cancel culture is whatever the threat is. If you don't have families that are self-reliant, and if you don't have them living together in communities that are self-sufficient or self-reliant, you're not going to be able to resist whatever tyrannies want to come down the pike. And they will come. So at our founding in our country, we had 80-90% of the population were farmers, which means they were all self-employed. They didn't have employers. Who was going to cancel them? They couldn't be canceled. Right. And by the same measure, you'd had a natural restraint on tyranny. So whatever the government had in mind to do, they were naturally restrained because the people didn't depend on government, and they didn't depend on corporations who can, as we're seeing with the vaccine mandates, they can parcel out whatever the government wants. That's right. So there's a whole lot of layers there, but the bottom line is to become more self-reliant really insulates yourself from all of the above.
Man, that is helpful and convicting. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would consider supporting Right Response Ministries, we'd be incredibly grateful. You can do so by going to rightresponseministries.com/donate to give your gift of any amount. If you're not able to support us financially, that's okay. You can still support us in a great regard simply by subscribing to our YouTube channel, clicking the bell, and of course sharing our content with all your friends and family. We can't do this without you, your support, and your prayers. So thank you.